In today's video, we are going to be going over the Unordinary and Inhumane deaths iceberg. I'm going to put this warning here for anyone who may have trouble hearing about death and injuries, so they may click off the video before I begin, because this one's going to be quite brutal at some points. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Tennessee Williams. Thomas Lanier Williams III was an American screenwriter known for his drama films throughout the 20th century, most famously A Streetcar Named Desire. He wrote movies all the way from the 1940s through the 1980s with varying success throughout his career. While his later movies throughout the 1970s and early 80s were considered flops, he was still inducted into the American Theater Hall of Fame in 1979. On February 25, 1983, at the age of 71, Williams was found dead at his hotel in New York City. His death was found to be caused by him choking to death after accidentally swallowing a plastic bottle cap. While this was originally found to be his cause of death, later reports show he had a toxic level of seconal, a sedative used for assisted suicide in the United States, in his system. Tycho the Danish nobleman. Tycho was an incredibly accomplished astronomer and nobleman born in the 1500s who was able to make incredible discoveries despite working before telescopes were even invented. He is known for being the one to coin new stars as novas, and is also known for losing part of his nose in a sword duel early in his life. He died on the 24th of October 1601 from a kidney ailment 11 days after visiting a banquet in Prague. It is said that during this banquet, he really had to go pee, but refused to leave since it would be considered improper, and because he held his urine in for so long, it is believed he died because his kidney bursted. After his death, he left his work to another incredibly accomplished astronomer, Kepler. Jack Daniel. Jack Daniel was an alcohol distiller from the United States, born sometime in 1849. The alcohol he created is still incredibly popular today under the name Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey. He passed away on October 9, 1911, and it is said that he died from blood poisoning, caused from an infection that he got in his toe after kicking a safe in a fit of rage when he could not get it open. This claim is highly disputed, and his biographer claims the infection came from a case of gangrene that he got in a completely unrelated accident. Jennifer Strange. Jennifer Strange was a mother of three from California who went on a game show in January 2007 called We for We. The game show had contestants drink an insane amount of water, and whoever could drink the most amount of water without going to the bathroom would be declared the winner. It is said that the nurses who saw the competitions going on warned the hosts multiple times that what they were doing was incredibly dangerous, but they were ignored anyway. These nurses were right, as hours later the 28-year-old would die from water intoxication. Her family was later given $16.5 million by the host after a 2-year lawsuit. Michael Farley. Michael F. Farley was an American businessman and politician who was elected in New York to serve as a U.S. congressman between 1915 and 1917. While he didn't exactly do much as a congressman, he had quite the interesting death. On October 8, 1921, he died of anthrax poisoning that he received from his shaving brush. It is believed that this anthrax came from infected animal hair that was used in the brush. He wasn't the only one, as 11 more people died in New York for the same reasons. Jimmy Heselden. James Jimmy Heselden was an English businessman born in 1948 who became rich after making the Hesco Bastion barrier system, which are used as flood stoppers and military barriers. Using his wealth, he did some charity work and then bought the company Segway Inc. in 2009. On the 26th of September 2010, he was out walking his dog on a Segway he owned, and when trying to move out of the way for another dog walker coming his way, he accidentally slipped and fell off a cliff. He succumbed to his injuries, and his $340 million fortune was left to his family. João Marie de Souza. João Marie de Souza was a 45-year-old Brazilian man who lived in a house near a hill where cows were known to graze. In July of 2013, one of the cows that was grazing near his house decided to climb up onto his house. The one-ton animal fell through João's roof and landed on top of him while he was in bed. He was reportedly taken to the hospital where he was still awake and apparently in fine condition. This would not last long, as he would soon pass away from internal bleeding. Shockingly, This was the third time a cow had fallen through a roof in the town. Isadora Duncan. Isadora Duncan was a renowned dancer and choreographer born in the late 1800s who performed all throughout the United States and Europe. She was known to dislike the showmanship associated with dancers and instead spent her life opening dance schools to educate young women on her philosophy of dance. On September 14, 1927, while in France, she got into an open-top car, and when they took off, her scarf became entangled in the wheels. She was violently pulled from the car, which broke her neck. She was taken to the hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Paul G. Thomas. Thomas was a 47-year-old man who was a co-owner of a wool mill named George Thomas & Sons Textile Co. While working on a Tuesday afternoon in 1987, Thomas fell into a pinwheel dresser machine, which proceeded to wrap him up in over 800 yards of wool. Being wrapped up in all that wool caused him to suffocate, and according to the other employees working that day, it happened so fast that nobody even saw it happen. David Kerwin. On July 20th, 1981, David Allen Kerwin and his friend Ronald Ratliff were exploring Yellowstone Park's famous hot springs when Ratliff's dog, Moosey, suddenly broke free. The dog proceeded to jump into the over 200-degree Fahrenheit hot spring. With the dog crying out in pain, Kerwin decided to jump in after the dog. When Kerwin emerged out of the hot spring with the dog, his skin had melted off and he had gone blind in both eyes. The dog passed away immediately, while Kerwin would pass away the next day in the hospital from his burns. Mary Reeser. Mary Reeser was an elderly woman who lived in St. Petersburg, Florida. On July 2, 1951, Reeser's landlord went to her apartment to deliver her a telegram that she had received. When arriving, the landlord realized the doorknob of the apartment was hot to the touch, so she called local law enforcement. When the police arrived and went inside, they found the remains of Reeser, which were mostly just hot ashes. The reports say she died of spontaneous human combustion. Deborah Galestone. Deborah Galestone was an 18-year-old worker at Disney's theme park, Disneyland, in Anaheim, California. She was assigned to work on the park's brand new ride, America Sings, which was a ride that showed animatronics of different singers throughout the U.S.'s history. On July 8, 1974, just days after the ride had opened, Deborah was crushed between moving walls inside the ride. It is believed that she either accidentally slipped and fell, or tried to jump between the ride stages when she was crushed. She was pronounced dead just minutes after the accident happened. John Jones. On November 24, 2009, 26-year-old caver John Jones and his younger brother Josh were exploring the Nutty Putty cave system. Everything had seemed to be going normal when John said he wanted to pass through the cave's infamous birthing canal. Jones had made a mistake, though, and had begun climbing into a different part of the cave. This part of the cave went straight down and got narrower and narrower the further he went. Soon he became lodged completely upside down. Despite a 28-hour rescue attempt, Jones could not be unlodged and would pass away from cardiac arrest by being upside down. The Nutty Putty cave was closed shortly thereafter, and his remains are still there to this day. Hisashi Ouchi. Hisashi Ouchi was a 35-year-old Japanese nuclear fuel processing plant worker who was exposed to the largest amount of radiation in human history. On September 30th, 1999, the plant he was working in was in a rush to purify uranium oxide in order to make the fuel rods, so the workers began mixing the substance by hand. Ouchi was leaning directly over the tank they were working in when suddenly the uranium went critical with a blue flash of light. Ouchi was taken to the hospital, and despite an 83-day battle and the use of numerous groundbreaking treatments, he would pass away from radiation poisoning. William Wallace. Sir William Wallace was a Scottish knight who helped lead their country in the First War of Scottish Independence. You've probably heard of Wallace if you ever watched the movie Braveheart featuring Mel Gibson. He was turned over to the British by another Scottish knight and was brutally executed. His death included being dragged by a horse, having his genitals cut off and burned in front of him, disemboweled with his organs being burnt in front of him, beheaded, cut into pieces, and then his head was dipped in a tar and spiked onto the London Bridge. Junko Furuta. Junko Furuta was a 17-year-old Japanese high school girl who was kidnapped on the 25th of November 1988. Her captors, 4 teenage boys proceeded to violently torture and rape her over a 40-day period. Most of the things they did were incredibly disturbing, and I do not wish to repeat them here on my channel. She passed away from her wounds on January 4th, 1989, and disgustingly, her captors were giving incredibly short sentence for the horrific crimes they committed. This has been the Unordinary and Inhumane Deaths Iceberg. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This has been Night Stories, and I'll see you guys next time.